Good evening and welcome to another live, production. I don't want to call this a webinar, but welcome to this Manhood series that I'm starting tonight. I'm glad that you can join. I'm really, what's the word I want to use? Excited is all I have, so I'll use that. I'm excited about the response to the Manhood webinar because we men are funny, right? But I do hope that tonight I will give you some things that will, number one, help you understand you better, and then number two, help you give you something that will make you want to come back and join for the rest of the other sessions throughout the weeks, right? So tonight is the first installment. Like I said last week, so I'm using manhood the way that we use neighborhood, right? So neighborhood is the place where you live with your neighbors. Manhood, the way I'm using it, is the place we men live, the space that we live. And I want to help make the manhood safer, more healthy, and really more emotionally mature, which is that's what we're talking about tonight. All right. So let me get into it. Make sure my notes are ready. You guys ready? All right, let's go. Now, one thing I would like, let me say this before I start too. I hope that you guys came with questions. I love questions, but I know we men a lot of time don't want to ask questions because of whatever reasons. All right. So anyway, listen. So as I was thinking about this topic of growing from boys to men, I thought of this quote from my favorite book, which says this. Okay. We're going to have technical difficulties live. No worries. Because you know why there's no worries? Because we're regular humans. And so there we go. So the quote says this. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I did away with childish things, right? So tonight, as we talk about growing up from boys to men, and specifically addressing the topic of emotional maturity, I want to use this quote as a guide to help us to understand what it truly means to go from being a boy to becoming a man. All right. Now, notice what I said. I said we go from being a boy to becoming a man. Right? There's nothing that we have to do to become a boy. Just be a boy. We didn't choose to be a boy. Right? Now, the problem is that in our society, there is an acceptable way to be a boy. The reason that's a problem is because there's also then an unacceptable way to be a boy. But if we're born boys, then why can't people just let us be what we are? Why do we have to become the kind of boy that society says is acceptable? This automatically sets me up as a boy to believe I'm not good enough. And what makes the problem even worse is the fact that this is so ingrained in our culture that fathers who've already gone through the toxic emotional cotton gin process of childhood now repeat the toxic process for their own sons. So then the problem perpetuates itself. I call the process by which we raise our boys in this society the emotional cotton gin process, right? You probably heard of the cotton gin. The cotton gin was a machine invented in 1794 by a black man named Eli Whitney. The machine revolutionized the process of removing seeds from the cotton so that the cotton can be used the way people wanted to use it. Now, that's great for cotton, but it's not great for raising boys to men. Just like the cotton gin removing seeds from the cotton, our childhood often removes seeds of manhood before they ever get to develop. But unlike the cotton gin, natural healthy seeds are removed, but then unhealthy seeds are planted. Sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly. But rarely do we arrive to adulthood with what we need to become men. All right. Now, like I told you last week, me, myself, I was not raised. I just grew up. All right. But whether you were raised or not, you probably have heard some of the bad seeds given to boys growing up. Now, here are a few of them. Of course, feel free to type some others in the comments because I only have a few of them. But if you could think of some others, because I know you can, there's tons of them, then you can write them in the comments. So here's one: men don't cry. We tell this to boys: men don't cry. But I'm a boy. I'm not a man. Okay, so and that's not true. Matter of fact, these are negative seeds that we sow, toxic seeds. Or what's another one? Men don't quit until the job is done. That's good, but I'm a boy, and we tell our boys this, and it's unhealthy for men, right? I need some parameters on don't quit until the job is done. Here's another one: men are not emotional like women. That's untrue. Here's another one: boys have to be tough. As defined by who? Can't I just be a boy? I have to be your definition of what tough is and your definition of a boy? See, sadly, by the time most boys are 5 years old, they've already learned that expressing emotions other than anger is not acceptable. The thing is, we mistakenly think that when we have children, we can make them into what we want them to be. No, that's not your role. But because a lot of parents don't recognize that that's not their role, you have a lot of adult males who are still living out their parents' version of their life. If not the parents' version, then society's version. Whoever's version it is, it's not the version of them that was set out by the one who created them, right? There is a created design for boys and men, and it was given by the creator, not parents. Watch this. If I create something and I give it to you, you don't have to recreate it or redefine it. It is what it is. It is what I made it to be, and it works how I made it to work. You don't have the right nor the insight to recreate my creation. And yet and still, we do it all the time with our boys. Now, going back to the quote, going back to the quote that I shared earlier, when I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I did away with childish things. What this quote communicates is the fact that when I'm a man, I don't act childish. So then the opposite is implied, which is if I still talk, think, and reason like a child, then I'm not yet a man. See, we don't become men just because we get older. Becoming a man is a process. And I believe if we did a better job at raising our boys to men, then we would have more men and fewer adult children trying to pass as men. I'm going to say that again. If we did a better job at raising our boys, actually raising them, we would have more men and fewer adult children trying to pass as men. Now, I don't mean that in a judgmental way, right? But I mean it in a way that, I mean it in this way. I mean it in a, this is my story also kind of way. Okay, so I'm not sitting high and looking down on you. I'm right here with you, right? Now, I told you I was going to use my own experience in some of our talks in the hopes that you can relate to the things I've been through as I share, so that we can break free from the box that most of us men live in. Although I am a therapist, tonight I'm talking more from the perspective of a man who became as opposed to a therapist, right? I want to make this personal on purpose, because as a man, I know how difficult it can be to look in the mirror and say, this part of me needs to be addressed. Like, that's not easy. So tonight, we're all on the same level. Okay. I just so happen to have a mic. And I would, at least an associate's degree in manhood. Okay. I'm not going to say I got a bachelor's or a master's. I'm not arrogant in that way, but I at least have an associate's, right? And I want to help. Now for me, so I grew up in a 2-parent home with my brothers, me and my brother and my 2 parents. I don't remember a lot before the age of 5, but I do know that by the age of 5, I had learned to suppress my emotions. Now, the reason I know this is because the very first session that I did with Dr. Patrick Wanis, who you guys, he's been on the show before. If anyone out there don't know Dr. Patrick Wanis and you haven't seen the webinars we've done, I strongly encourage you to go look at that because it's extremely insightful. But the first session that I did with Dr. Wanis, we pulled up a memory, which happened to be a traumatic memory for a child. And in the midst of that moment, I could not pull up any emotions at all. As I pictured this 5-year-old boy, which was me, I could not picture any emotions. It was shocking to learn that my emotions were not working properly all the way back then, right? As I got older as an adult, I knew, hey, stuff don't work right. Like, I should be crying here, but I don't feel anything. So I knew that, but I was surprised to find out that at that early age of around 5, I had already learned to suppress my emotions. So the research that says by the time we're 5, most boys have learned to suppress their emotions, that's true for me. I fit right into that research. Okay. I didn't know it at the time, but when I look back on my childhood, the thing that I feel most is invisible. Right? I feel unseen, invisible. Now, what that means is I did not feel like I was important. Okay. I didn't understand my own value. I was not validated as being significant. Now, this is important to point out because as recently as 3 weeks ago, those feelings resurfaced, and I'm 48. All right. But this time when they resurfaced, I was able to see it clearly and I was able to address it. Right. Now, that may be a part of why I started this whole series when I had that little situation. But I remember when I went to therapy years ago and I was telling the lady my story about my childhood, and she said, oh, we got to do trauma therapy. And I was like, trauma? What do you mean trauma? Like my childhood was normal. It wasn't, but I didn't know it, right? We never did the trauma work, but I did get an understanding of what she meant, right? It was the emotional trauma of childhood that had me sabotaging my adult relationships. Now, the reason I'm sharing this, you understand that you do not have to have what we call obvious trauma, like being molested or being physically abused or abandoned, whatever. But if you have those obvious traumas, then you have not done major work, then you want to work on that, right? Because the thing about trauma, it doesn't go away, right? You can't outlive it and you can't outgrow it. You got to deal with it, right? Now, it is my belief that we cannot know something until we learn it, okay? You can't know something until you learn it. Sounds simple. However, we don't recognize how often we criticize and judge people for not knowing what we think they should know. We do it all the time. Matter of fact, it reminds me of a time when I went to my parents' house to show them my new car. So I'm at my mom's, and while visiting, I'm inside visiting with my mom, and my dad goes outside to see the car. He came back in, and he was like, Clifton. Whenever my dad talked, he always sounded like he was angry. That's just the way he talked, right? But anyway, so he came in the house. Clifton, you don't know, you don't have no license plates on the front of that car? I'm like, I don't know. I ain't really look. You don't know? You ain't know you get a ticket like that? Now, at this point, I'm getting upset because of how he's asking me what he's asking me, right? And I was about 30 at the time. But that's when I realized you don't know something until you learn it. That's when I realized that. And I was angry. I was angry at him because he was asking me something that he never taught me. This is also when I realized that we do not become men just because we get older. You have to learn how to be a man. Everything about being a man and a husband, but tonight we're talking about just being a man. Everything about being a man is learned. You're not born with any of it. You're born a boy. Becoming a man, you got to learn that stuff, right? Now, this idea of emotional maturity is one of the most important aspects of being a man because it affects so much of how we show up in life, right? Whatever area you feel like, whatever area that you struggle in, I can almost guarantee you there's an emotional component connected to it, right? So now I'm getting to the meat of tonight's discussion. It's kind of like the intro, right? It's the meat of to the discussion. So it is my belief that real success is being able to thrive at human relationships. In order to thrive at relationships as a man, you must be emotionally mature. But as I stated before, for most of us, emotional maturity is muffled, right? Most were not taught how to handle their emotions. Most were not taught what emotions mean, right? Most were not given a voice or space to express their inner thoughts and feelings. And I'll come back to that later when we talk about being a father. And, as far as, to help you not do that to your sons. But let's talk about how emotional immaturity keeps us from thriving as men. Okay. Now, going back again, remember the quote. It said, I talked, thought, reasoned like a child. Now, how do children talk? What do children talk about? For the most part, children talk about surface level things. They talk about surface level things because they hadn't been on the planet long enough to talk about deep things. They talk about things that they like, things that are fun. A man can talk about surface level things. However, he has to have the depth to go deeper than the surface. Now, I'm not really talking about content, but rather the weight of the content, right? As boys talk about playing, men talk about purpose. Boys get angry and call you names. When men get angry, men tell you how they feel without disrespecting you. Now, I know you may be saying, no, they don't. You missed what I said. Men do. Boys don't. I'm not judging you. I'm not saying that you're not a man. I'm just telling you how men versus boys operate. Okay, so don't get mad at me. I'm just giving you just the facts, ma'am. Right? So when it comes to our thoughts, what do boys think about? Boys think about how good. Boys think about how to feel good. They think about how to feel good, but men embrace pain when there's a purpose connected to it. Boys want to avoid pain, but men use pain to grow. Boys think me first, but men think those whom I love are first. Boys think it feels good. If it feels good, then it must be good. But emotional maturity in men says everything that feels good to me is not good for me. So a married man getting head in his office may feel good, but a real man understands that this is not good and can cost me way more than it's worth. Did I wake y'all up with that? Ain't nobody saying anything. We're talking men stuff. But yeah, so boys run after self-gratification. Men know how to delay gratification. That's not something you're born with. You have to learn that, right? Boys think tit for tat. But men give what they have to give freely. I've met so many husbands who've had the mindset of, if she don't give me sex, then I'm not going to talk to her. And they really believe they have a legitimate reason to be unkind. When it comes to reasoning, so I talked about talking, thinking, now I'm talking about reasoning. When it comes to reasoning, boys often don't reason past the immediate self-gratification connected to whatever they're choosing, right? But men count the costs before making a decision. Boys make decisions based on how they feel, but men make decisions based on wisdom. Now, they don't always make the right decision. Sometimes they don't even make the best decision. However, they do make decisions based on possible outcomes, right? Boys are impulsive, but men are strategic. Now, if I'm being honest, there will be times when every man will act like a child. Every adult, at some point, you'll act like a child, right? We're not perfect. However, that should not be your normal way of operating. So how do you know if you have become or is becoming a man? Emotional maturity. That's the moniker. That's the sign. That's how you know. Okay. See, the way we talk, think, and reason are heavily influenced by our emotional maturity or the lack thereof. The way we see, the way we talk, think, and reason, they are heavily influenced by our emotional maturity or the lack thereof. So here's what you should look for to gauge your emotional maturity, right? Here's what you should look for. How you handle conflict. How do you do that, right? How do you act when you don't get what you want? How do you act when you don't get what you believe you deserve? See, most men can hide their emotional immaturity in everyday life, but when life gets hard, then that's when we struggle. Growing up, the only acceptable emotion for most men is usually anger, right? This handicaps the man because there are so many other emotions inside that never get validated. And so then we never learn how to process or express them, right? And let me kind of skip ahead a little bit. Because I feel like I'm going a little slow, and I want to make sure I have time for questions at the end. Because it's already 7:24. So here's some immature behaviors that you maybe have, right? And I want to relate them to the childhood stage of development where that kind of behavior shows up, so that most of you can get an idea of where you may be, right? So first we have the infant. Infants need a lot of attention. Now, let me pause and say this part. I know there are women on here. Women, what I'm sharing is not for you to point your finger at your husband or your man or any man. What I'm about to share is not for you to diagnose your man. I wish there was a way I could screen the women out and I could just talk to the men. I'd probably have to do that in person, which I am thinking about starting a group for men. Obviously, that would be in person, but I'll talk about that later towards the end of the series in the next few weeks. But anyway, let me get back to what I'm saying. So I just wanted to give that disclaimer. Women, this is not for you to beat your man up or to say, oh, see, that's what your issue is. No. What is your issue? Focus on you, ma'am. Okay, so infants need a lot of attention, right? Infants are literally the center of their world. Okay, they believe that everything happens to them or it is caused by them. Okay, we call this egocentric, right? Children are egocentric. Infants are egocentric. They need this kind of ego mindset to develop a healthy sense of self. Men, on the other hand, should not need everything to revolve around them, right? I've had many a wives say that when daddy's not happy, the whole house is affected. That's not a good look. Infants also need their needs. This is big. Infants need their needs to be figured out, right? So the needs can be met. Men recognize that they are responsible for their own needs, and they have learned how to express their needs as opposed to wanting someone to just figure it out, right? This was probably one of my biggest problem areas that I needed to overcome, all right? And if I'm honest, it's still not easy telling my wife what I need. Why? Well, because number one, my needs as a child, specifically my relational needs, were not a priority. And then number two, because of number one, I did not learn how to express my needs. So I would just expect people to meet them. I expect you to know, and I expect you to meet it. Meet the need, like read my mind, meet the need, right? It wasn't until after 40 that I finally grasped the reality that my life was my responsibility. Now, you may think that's crazy and weird, but remember I told you, you don't know something until you learn it. It was after 40. Now, I didn't know that I was living my life as if I was not, responsible for it. But when I hit that point, I realized, man, I'm living my life like someone else is responsible for it, waiting for someone to come save me, waiting for someone to rescue me. Emotional immaturity. All right. Now, Rick Marx says this, infantile men come across as narcissistic. Thank God I don't think I was narcissistic. At least came across that way. Anyway, infantile men come across as narcissistic, right? They tend to be inconsiderate, devoid of empathy, tyrannical, and very self-centered. They see others as objects to fulfill their own needs and desires without real consideration for the needs of others, right? They tend to lean towards instant gratification. They have little to no ability to self-regulate or to practice self-control, right? These men also lack self-awareness. These are red flags, right? These are red flags that say to you, hey, you might be emotionally immature. Right? And when you see these red flags, what does red mean? Red means stop, pay attention. And I'm going to add, you need to address that, right? So don't just run through the red lights and red flags. Now, after the infant, then there's the toddler/child age, right? These men, much like a happy child, are wonderful to be around. But once their needs and desires aren't met, the way that they want them to be, then they quickly become self-focused. Like, you're not going to meet my needs. Eyes turn inward onto themselves, right? So what do? Like children, they whine, they complain, they threaten, throw a temper tantrum, right? They punish, right? They punish to get their way, right? They become good at manipulating others to get their needs met. They see conflict as a personal attack rather than an opportunity for personal and relational growth. They're also easily offended, right? These men want to get even with the people who harm them. Sadly, this is probably where I spent most of my adult years when it came to relationships in this stage. But now, what's interesting is that about 4 months ago, I had a need for connection, but I did not tell my wife. I told y'all I'm 48, right? So I had a need for a connection, but I didn't tell my wife. Instead, I tried to give her clues and hints. And when she didn't get it, just like I did when I was a child, I tried to be loud, silent enough, or weird enough to get some attention so she would ask me what's wrong. Here's the crazy part of that. It never worked. When I was a kid, it never worked. But it also was never corrected. But it never worked as a kid. But when I was triggered, I reverted back to being loud and trying to be silent, trying to get attention. So when this happened 4 months ago, with my wife, I did the same thing, right? I went to the garage. I was making a lot of noise. I had my headphones on and I was talking loud. I think I probably was listening to Mystical. That's one thing that's also from, I forgot about that, from my childhood. I would listen to music really, really loud to try to get attention. Nobody ever came to my room to see what was going on. So anyway, I'm in the garage. I think I'm listening to Mystical. And so I'm singing real loud and just kind of, just trying to get attention, being a kid. But the thing is, if my wife is watching this, she's probably hearing this for the first time. Why? Because she had no idea I was out there doing that, because she didn't hear me. She didn't see my attempts to get her attention. That's childish. I'm glad to say that I've grown and, I'm better, right? But I just wanted to share that with you to say, men, when you are a healthy man, emotionally mature, you have to be able to express your needs. You cannot expect people just to meet your needs, people just to figure out stuff, right? It's going to cause you to become manipulative. You're going to be manipulating people to give you what, if you're honest, you want them to give it to you freely, but they don't even know what you need. Learn to speak. Now, what I did not get a chance to do to add to this whole talk while I'm on this is I wanted to add at the end more like how to overcome this, how to overcome. But then I said, you know what? I'll leave that to if folk want to talk to me one-on-one or, come do therapy or, whatever the case. So anyway, when I was going through that, I did not know then what I know now, which is this. Triggers are really just life's way of letting you know where you're not free, right? I got that from Peter Crone. I really like his content, and he says that triggers are just a sign from life exposing an area where you're not free, right? Now, when you hear this, you may think, "Oh, that's not me," right? I don't do that. True, it may not be you all the time. But how about when you're upset or frustrated, right? How about when your needs aren't being met, right? That's the reason I was not able to see my behavior as childish, because outside of those times, I was a great man. Like, I was good. But that's like saying I make all my layups in practice. Good, sir. How do you perform when the game is on the line? Right? How do you perform under pressure? What do you do then? Okay, so now the last one is the teenager. Teenagers get caught between dependence and independence, right? I'm not an adult, but I'm not a kid, okay? So when you tell them to do something, they feel like it's an insult on their autonomy and independence. They respond with, "Don't tell me what to do," right? And this is how immature men get stuck at the teenage level. They act this way also, right? Lock themselves in the room, go to the bar, play video games, ignore, right? Don't talk to me. Real men have learned to be interdependent, not dependent or independent, but interdependent, right? Now, here's the last piece. At the core of emotional immaturity, and if you've done any work with me or if you've watched any of my other webinars on love, you've probably already heard me teach this part, but at the core of emotional immaturity is fear. Fear shows up in a lot of ways that does not look like you sitting in the corner shaking with a blanket over your head, right? Fear also looks like, instead of that, which, oh, he's afraid. Yeah, we don't usually look like that. But fear looks like punching a wall when you're angry. You probably didn't know that. Fear looks like cheating on your wife. Fear looks like cheating on your taxes. Fear makes you focus on you. But watch this. The opposite of fear is love. The opposite of fear is love. Love is not about you. Love is about the person that you are loving. The thing about love is this: it performs best under pressure. But when you're emotionally immature, you will walk in fear under pressure. Now, the quote that we've been dealing with tonight, that I read from the beginning, actually came from the Bible, and it's a part of a thought that Paul had about love, right? So at the beginning, he was explaining what love is. And then he says what he says about being a child and becoming a man. And then he ends it with love again. Here's the point. And this is the point of it all. I hope I've been clear. If not, y'all let me know and I'll do better next time. But here's the point of it all. Real men learn to walk in love instead of fear. And that, my friends, is emotional maturity. Okay? So I'm going to open it up for, oh, good. I did good time. For some questions. You guys have any questions? And let me go. I need to go to the website because I know you may have had some questions while I was going and I did not see them. So if you have any questions, let me know. Let me know. I'll give you a little while to let me see if there are any questions from you brothers. I'm gonna have to move this over here. I can't see that. Let's see. Quit crying like a girl. Oh man, that's good, Derek. Yeah, that's yeah. Quit crying. How do girls cry? How do girls cry? Do they use something other than tears? Quit crying like a girl. That's a good one. Will you do this every Monday? So right now, yes. So I'm going to be doing this for the next 3 Mondays. But I know because I have so much content, because I have like 8 topics that I'm trying to get into 4 weeks and I can't do that. So, but after these first 4, I think when we go into the new year, I'm going to do it once a month. I still call them Manhood Mondays, but it'll be once a month. This one is just the foundation, the groundwork of, I really wanted to expose our emotional maturity. Well, should I say emotional immaturity? Because a lot of times I find a lot of brothers who come in my office, it's like they had a childhood, but they really want to ignore it like it didn't happen or it didn't matter. And I'm here to tell you that stuff can affect you. But I am going to incorporate how to some how-to on how to deal with your childhood stuff, because it can sabotage your life. And it's really just about what you believe about it or what you believe about you. And then just helping you mature emotionally. That's crucial. I'm telling you, that's crucial. When you don't have emotional maturity, you will allow your emotions to drive. Your emotions shouldn't be driving you. Emotions are just a sign. It's a sign that, hey, pay attention to this. Most of the times, watch this. Most of the times, emotions really are a sign that there's a need that's missing or a need that needs to be met. But then what we do is we try to meet the need in illegitimate ways. So the need is legitimate. Needs for connection, needs to be heard, needs that say you're valued. It's just how we go about getting those needs met a lot of times gets us in trouble. Let's see. Every Monday, yes. So when will you start the group for the men only? I think I'm going to start the group. I'm still putting it together. I'm talking to another colleague of mine. She does one for women, and I'm gonna get some insight from her. That's a good question. If you guys, if I know that there's really an interest, I'll do it sooner than later, like the first of the year, because I really want to pour into men. Not that I'm a know-it-all, not that I'm, I only have associates in manhood. But I love teaching and I love sharing, and the group won't be like me being the expert, so to speak. It'll be a group of us men sharing. Because here's the thing about our society. We men need quality male relationships, but we don't have them often. And that's mostly because of the toxicity of the way that we're raised in childhood. I read an article today. One of the things that I did not get to put into the lesson or whatever it is, this article from earlier today, and I'm gonna try to get it in next week, but it was an article about basically saying that men during the pandemic have realized that their relationships with other men they don't have the depth that they thought, because all we did was go to the bar or watch football on Sundays. And now that that's, done, these men are finding themselves falling into depression and things like that because the deep connections they thought they had, they don't have. That's manhood in America. And so I want to address that. How long is the process once you recognize your internal issues? I can't say that there's a time frame. I think it depends on the individual. Some people, I don't think I'm a good example, but I'm gonna use me anyway. When I recognize something in me that needs to be addressed, I can do it fairly quickly because of all the information that I have and books that I have and insight that I have and things I've studied. And then also too, I have access to, Dr. Wanis, so I can get through stuff quicker. Now, if I get stuck, I'm dealing with something, I'm stuck, then I too have to go to therapy, right? We can't do therapy on ourselves. But there's not a certain time frame of how long it takes to move past your stuff, because watch this. All of it, 100% of it is in your mind. It does not exist anywhere else. And so it's really just about you changing your beliefs about you and those experiences. Sometimes releasing the emotions that you have bottled up from bad experiences. So it just kind of depends. I don't really have a time frame that I could give you. Y'all gonna, as we say in church, y'all gonna make me shout. Y'all got me feeling really. I'm really proud of you guys for engaging in conversation. I really did not expect this at all, and so I got to go through these and read them a little bit. Hold on, and I'm trying to keep them in order. So, what is your suggestion for starting tips on how to start the effort of reaching and living in love versus fear? Oh, that's good. So, the thing about living in love, you got to start with you. Right. And so where I say start with childhood, you want to find the root cause of some of the beliefs that you have about you. So in general, pretty much all of us humans at some level feel we're not good enough. So take this idea of not being good enough and then see if you can trace back to the first time you felt that or thought that as a kid. And that initiating event may give you some understanding as to how you develop the beliefs that you have. Now, from there, you want to learn to accept you. Problem is, because of our childhood, we grew up trying to be perfect. We grew up trying to be tough. We grew up afraid to express ourselves because that part of us is never validated, right? And so then, we grew up love deficient. See, when these things are happening, I had no idea when I was a kid that I was love deficient because I thought my childhood was good. But when you're love deficient, when you grow up and you become a man, you are going to be more self-centered than the average person. Why? Because you're going to be trying to put in what's missing, but you're going to do it in a way that's going to hurt the people around you. So the first thing you got to do, well, after you do that part, then you got to learn what love is. See, most people don't know what love is. Love is not an emotion. Love makes you feel good, but love is not a feeling. You feel me? Love is about action. And so learning to love yourself and then learning to love others will set you up to start walking in love versus fear. So let me share this with you. This was in my notes. I didn't get to talk about it when I talk about love. So here's how powerful love is. Love is to fear like light is to darkness. Okay? Now, darkness can never overcome the light. Never. You'll never see light. You'll never see darkness overcome light. In order for darkness to win, the light has to give up. You have to cut the lights off. If there's darkness everywhere, when light shows up, darkness has to leave. Love and fear is the same way. When you finally allow yourself to be filled with love, fear dissipates. But when you're love deficient, fear comes right in and it fills you up. So to get the fear out, you got to fill yourself with love. Now we're jumping way ahead to my last lesson. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but because of God's design law, how he designed us, there's a certain kind of love that you need. Just like luxury cars, Mercedes Benz, whatever. I don't have one, but I hear they take a certain kind of gas, right? And if you put a different kind of gas in it, you're going to mess it up. Well, there's a certain kind of love that we need that can fill us up to where we never go empty again. That can only come from the one who created you. That's just what it is. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to accept it. You can say, oh, he tripping. I'm just giving it to you. You're going to have to be filled with the Creator's love because he designed it that way. Remember earlier I talked about the creation? If I create something, I have already decided what it is, what it does, and what it's for, and how it operates. You can't now then redesign it and say, no, it's not that, it's this. It's not going to work the way I intended when you get a hold to it. You are the same way. God created you to operate a certain way. We live and thrive on love. When we're full of love, amazing things happen. Told someone last week, and I know this, I'm kind of long on this question, but told someone last week, you'll never, ever, never, ever see someone who is full of love mistreating people. You'll never see someone who is full, keyword full of love, who is disrespectful. When you're not full of love, you're going to be full of a whole lot of other junk. So hopefully that was helpful. I know what I need, my glasses, but I don't have them. So let me see if I can read this. What's an example of responding in love, not fear, when confronted in a way that you feel is disrespectful? Oh, that's good. So when someone confronts you in a way that's disrespectful, first of all, realize they got an issue, not you. Right? Just because you're disrespectful don't mean I got to be disrespectful. Something is going on with you. That's not my business. So how I respond in love. So love is not about you. Love is about the person you're loving. So let's talk about first, like general love, like it's someone on the streets. So there's a general love for humanity we should have. So you come at me sideways because I'm full of love. I'm gonna say, brother, why are you talking like that? Like we can't just have a conversation. If you're triggered, remember that's a sign. It's an area that you're not free. So you want to work on you. You're never responsible for how someone treats you. You're only responsible for how you respond to it. Right? Now, folk gonna treat you dirty. Folk gonna treat you crazy. And I'm not saying I'm not at all promoting being a doormat. Not at all. You confront people and you establish boundaries, but you don't. You establish boundaries, but you don't allow them to get on. You don't allow them to get in to change who you say you want to be. Right? If you're a respectful person, then be a respectful person. Right? You don't allow someone to make you disrespectful. And I hope that's helpful enough. But let's be more specific, because that's actually easier to do that with a stranger than it is with your wife or someone that you love. So let's say your wife is disrespectful. It's the same thing. Your wife has an issue because she's talking to her husband crazy. And so because you love her, you don't get on her level. You try to help her not be that way. And so you give her, whatever she needs to be helped so that she don't. Love investigates, right? Love goes in and say, hey, what's going on? Why are you treating your husband that way, in essence? So I hope, did I answer your question? What's an example of responding in love versus fear? So yeah, I think I did. If I didn't, then let me know. I can give another example if you need. So I agree a lot of things from my childhood explain some of the issues I face today in my relationship. Yeah, it does. And that's pretty much all of us. How does a man handle a situation where his kids are not talking to him for months when they live in the same house? We're going through a divorce. So Alan, you're saying that you live in the house with your kids and they're not talking to you. First, how old are the kids? Okay. Are they children? Or are they like adults? If they're children, if they're not talking to you and you haven't done anything to make them not talk to you, then it might mean that they've been poisoned by either y'all's relationship or someone saying something to them. Okay. But your love for them never changes. Your love for them never stops. So here's the thing. Your children are not required and honestly shouldn't be expected to love you. Say that again. Your children are not required and should not be expected to love you. Children receive, parents give. Now, as they grow into adults, they'll have their own family where they will give. And as they get older and they become adults, they can love you back. But now I'm talking about the expectation. So what are you expecting from your children? It's not their role to make you feel good. It's not their role to talk to you. It's your role to help make their life better and to guide them. And I'm not trying to, be harsh, but too often we use, I'm not saying that you're doing this. I'm just speaking to the point. Sometimes we use our children to get our adult needs met, and that's harmful to the child. So try not to do that. Okay. Now, if I did not answer the question fully, let me know, because this part where you say we're going through a divorce, y'all still living in the house, or y'all separated, and when the kids come over, so let me say this too. Let's say if all y'all live in the house, or you guys are separated and they come over and they don't talk. You want to investigate to find out what's going on inside, because watch this, they're human and they're regular humans because that's all we have on the planet. So that means if they're not talking, there is a reason. Investigate. Don't grill them. Don't interrogate them, but be inquisitive to the point to where they understand that you're trying to find out how to meet whatever need they have. Right? Let them know you care. Let them know that you see them and that you understand them and that you love them and you are going to be there for them. And then just allow them to open up as they open up. Don't force it. Because if you force it, then they'll get the message that I'm not good enough, and that ain't what you want to send. Okay? Let's see. God has created men to love always, no matter how you feel, and be strong all the time. Sometimes it's so hard to be that, and after a while it becomes pretentious behavior. That is true to an extent. I didn't mean to say that was true. I meant to say I understand what you mean. I do understand what you mean. So God has created men to love always, no matter how you feel, and be strong all the time. That part, not true. So love always, yes. Be strong all the time, no. So I tell people, humans actually are not strong. So men especially, we're not strong. We're not designed to be. If we were strong, God would not say bear one another's burdens. Because if I'm strong, I could just take care of myself and bear my own stuff. I don't need you helping me. But see, he made us relational creatures. We're not supposed to be strong and self-sufficient in that way, right? So if you're loving, in spite of how you feel, yes. But when things get difficult, you should have. See, the problem is when you have only one source to get love from. Let's say that's your wife or whoever. You only have one source. And so when that source is messed up, so to speak, Now I'm stuck. And so it becomes more difficult because, see, we're relational creatures. We thrive, we grow, and we thrive, we grow, and we become successful in relationships. So when things, you say, is getting too difficult to do, then you should have other relationships that you can connect to. It would be good if it's men, but whoever, connect with other people to fill you up emotionally, get your needs met. It's your responsibility to get your needs met. Even the ones that you can't meet, it's your responsibility to go out and get them met, right? And then that will help you. Let me make sure I answered the other part of your question. Sometimes it's so hard to be that after a while it becomes pretentious. It shouldn't become pretentious because, so if it becomes pretentious, then that means you're not truly loving. Now, I would agree that it's not easy because if we do it right, loving another human is the most difficult thing that we humans have to do if we do it right, because it is so selfless. Most of us don't do it right. Most of us do, you wash my back, I wash yours. That's not love. That can be favor, but it's mostly pride, but it's not love. But when you're giving and it starts to get difficult and pretentious, have a conversation. And so I'm going to put it in the context of a wife. You didn't give who it was. You come to him, babe, I got this issue. This is bothering me. How can we resolve it? Right? Don't hold things in, and don't try to do life by yourself. That's been one of my biggest problems, doing life alone. Right? You're not going to be successful at doing that. You're just not. No. Great question on the perceived disrespect that when we face many times in our own homes. Right. You get to decide what's respectful and what's not. Right. I've gotten to the place to where I'm really good at letting people own their stuff. Like when my wife is upset with me, if I didn't do anything, it's easier. Right. If I didn't do anything, at least to my knowledge, and she's upset, I just kind of let her be where she is. I mean, I'll ask if she, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But if she says, basically puts up a wall, then okay, I go to the garage and I'm chilling until she's ready to talk. Now, if I did do something, I can still do it, but it's not as easy to just be like, you know what, those are her emotions. Those are not mine. I can apologize for my behavior, but I try not to own her emotions and I try not to control her emotions. I'm a regular human. I mess up. I apologize for it, and I try to make better choices next time. But outside of that, I'm not trying to be a victim of your disrespect. Thank you for putting this together and giving us your time. I look forward to getting to. Yeah, me too, Gino. I think it's gonna be really good. I really want you brothers to, you stay with me to the end, and then we start this group thing. We're gonna create some amazing. My goal is to reduce the divorce rate. That may sound, ambitious. One small corner of the world at a time. The few men I know, I work with you brothers, and we all have great marriages. And then maybe you can go and get another young brother who just got married and teach them about how to be a husband. Because everything about being a man, just like everything about being a husband, is learned. And they don't teach it in high school or college. They don't teach it nowhere. That's why one reason the divorce rate is what it is. Let's see. Alan striking a nerve. God bless you, brother. I feel similarly. Sometimes with my own experiences, I was taught children should show respect for elders and demonstrate good, godly manners. That's deep. That's deeper than the way it sounds. So let me unpack it. Children should show respect for their elders. Children should show respect for people, period. And we say elders. The reason I don't like saying elders is because for a child, everybody's an elder. But the reality is they should show respect for people. But watch this. What we call respect for elders is usually not respect, it's control. You need to do what I say, when I say, and how I say do it. Shut up, sit down, and be quiet. Don't talk back to me. So if I don't understand, or if I have an issue, because I'm a human with emotions, I can't say nothing to you. That's disrespectful for me to say why. It's disrespectful for me to say, I don't understand. It's disrespectful for me as a kid to say, I don't want to do that. It's not. If it's disrespectful for them, then it's disrespectful for you. So when your boss say, hey, I know you're the computer analyst, but I need you to go out there to that ditch and shovel all that boo-boo. You can't say, I'm not doing that. That's disrespect. It's not. Neither is it for the child. So the other part of that, let's see. Demonstrate good godly manners. While I'd have to know, what you mean by that, because I'm sure that's open to interpretation, good godly manners. But if we're talking about godly manners based on the creator God of the Bible, then again, it's just respecting people, period. But you respect them too. Every human alive deserves respect. Everyone, from the biggest to the smallest, from the oldest to the youngest. If you're alive, prisoners, murderers, everybody deserves respect. Now, maybe not all the same kind of respect. Like I don't respect you as an accountant when you're a thief, right? But I respect you as a human. That's what I'm saying. Love and respect every human deserves. There's nothing you have to do but be alive. So when you're talking about children, if they're not talking to you, there's a reason. And if you're being triggered, I'm telling you, that's a sign that something is going on inside of you, that you're expecting to get something from them that you need. That's the problem. See, it's not that they respect you and they don't, and then so you want to teach them and okay, let me help you grow. It's they're not respecting you or they're not speaking or whatever, and you need them to. See, we respond very different when we want something versus when we need it. And if you need something from your children, you gotta get some help. There's nothing. I'll think about it more, but off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that you need from your child. That's not how the design works. You don't need anything from them. You're the giver. I know that's very countercultural especially in the Black community, how we raise our kids. We raise our kids with a lot of shame, right? But you respect your kids respect you. Now you do have to discipline them, and you do have to, and that's when we talk about being a father, I'm gonna talk about the difference between the difference between discipline and punishment, because they're not the same things. Discipline is a part of love. Punishment is nothing. Punishment does not foster any kind of connection or growth. Discipline does. We'll talk about that. Let's see. I asked them and they said they didn't want to say why we're still living in the same house. Alan, how old are they? And if they don't want to say why, you got to let them be. Here's what you can do. Now, this is real simple. This is an example. So if you want someone to eat, so someone comes to your house, you want them to eat, you don't put dead lizards on the plate and say, hey, eat that. No, you put on the plate what they like, that they would eat. Okay, maybe that didn't. Here's a better example. If you want your children to talk to you, make sure that you stay safe. You may be safe, but stay safe for them to talk. Okay? Give them a reason to talk. But ask yourself, first of all, why do you want them to talk to you? What's the point? Meaning, do you want them to talk to you because you're really concerned about them, or you want them to talk to you for something else? So ask yourself that. But make sure it's a safe, make sure it stays safe for them. If they don't want to say, they have a reason for that. You may not understand the reason. And if when you find out the reason, it may not make any sense to you. It obviously makes sense to them. So let them have their reason. The best thing you can do, especially when someone in this kind of situation, is love them more. See, the world says, you hurt me, I hurt you back. But love says, when you hurt me, I love you more. And if I could tell more folk that before they get married, they wouldn't. Because ain't nobody signing up for that, really. Wait a minute. You disrespect me and I got to increase my love? No, I'm not doing that. Most people are not going to sign up for that. But that's what love is. I told you it's the most difficult thing we have to do if we do it correctly. I didn't wash the dishes or clothes for years before today. I don't know what that means. Oh, how do you respond to your... okay. I'm sorry. I didn't read what you said before. How do you respond if your spouse keeps a record of all of your past wrongs? Oh, man. It feels like progress is never acknowledged. So first of all, chores like dishes, clothes, and all that stuff, those are not marriage issues. That's number one. But number two, so I can't tell your wife how to be because she's not on here, right? But what I can say is, if she's keeping records of wrong, so that same what I read today about when I was a child, I thought like a child, taught like a child, reasoned like a child. It says love never fails, it never fades or ends. No prophecies, blah 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 blah. It keeps no records of wrong. So basically, your wife is not walking in love. I'm not saying she don't love you, but she's not walking in love. Keeping records of wrong for what? There's somebody that can keep a record of her wrongs. Who wants to live that way? What she's not going to do is foster positive behavior in you. She's not going to do that. So, yeah. And I would want to know why she's so adamant about this, and why are you going to hurt the person because of like house stuff? We're relational creatures. All that other stuff doesn't really matter. We make it matter. It matters up here, but in the grand scheme of things, get in a car accident, she's not going to ask about no dishes, no nothing. What's going to matter? I just want you to live. I didn't mean be that doom and gloom, but the point is, a lot of stuff that we say matter, it doesn't matter. So yeah, your wife is not walking in love if she's keeping the records wrong. That's going to be taxing for anybody like that. You don't want that. I have boys and I want them to have the best understanding possible. Derek, if you have boys, man, look, you got to get away from how we raise our boys normally. A lot, whatever age they are, let them be that age. 2, 3, 4, 5. Let them be that age, right? Here's the thing. I didn't mention this, but it is my belief. I don't have research for this and I ain't looked it up, but we don't have to raise our boys with tough love or to be tough so that they'll grow up and not be wimps. You don't have to do that. Men, if you would just love your boys, they're boys. They're going to grow up to be a boy, i.e. then, a man. Just love them. Develop in them relational skills. They're not going to be at the job. They're not going to go in a business meeting, give a presentation, bum, and then go back to the office and cry. That doesn't happen. Not only do men grown people don't do that. Women may sometimes, right? But just in general, a man not going to do that. So all of the tough love you're trying to do to make them tough for society, you don't have to. God already designed them to thrive in society as they are. But see, when they're children, we break their will. And then we expect them to be whole adults when they become adults. So I break your will, and then now I want you to have your own mind. And you can't do that. So I forgot what I was going to say to Derek. Raising boys, that's a task. Let's see. How do you break through to someone with love versus fear when you've created pain through lack of emotional maturity for so long? The pain that the person makes love seem hopeless at the moment. Well, so here's the thing. What's going to happen tomorrow? You don't know. And guess what? We've never known what's going to happen tomorrow. So fear does its greatest work when you spend too much time in the future. Okay. If you've hurt her, the way to get through to her, number one, is change behavior. You got to change. You cannot be the same person and say, I'm sorry, and expect for her to open up. Not going to happen. Okay. So you got to have change behavior. You have to have, this word, the Greek word metanoia, means to turn and go the other way, right? If you're on the freeway, you're trying to get to Dallas, but you're on 45 in Houston and you're going south. When you realize you're going the wrong way, don't just stop on the side of the freeway. That's part of it. So, it was Brandon. Yeah. So Brandon, you may stop the behavior. That's good. But you got to turn around and go the right way, or she's still not going to get to your destination. So if you've hurt her, you fall on your face, say, babe, I'm sorry. I want to be a different man. And I found this guy who's going to help me do that. Yeah. And then you got to grow your patience, because you can't tell her when to let you back in her heart. She's in control of that. But if you want her, then you stand outside as long as it takes until you get back in. That's what love does. Love is not for wimps. Trust and believe. Marriage is not for wimps. No. So, and I'm not calling you a wimp, by the way, Brandon. I'm just saying love is difficult. So if you've hurt her, you got to make up for that. You do. And love makes you want to, but you cannot control how long it's going to take for her to let you in. Wow. We done gone over an hour. All right, I'm going to do a couple more. No matter what I do, no matter what I do, the past overwhelms anything I try. And also, too, that's because she hasn't healed, right? She hasn't forgiven. And she may not know how to forgive. Or maybe your behavior is of such where she tried to forgive and then you repeat. I don't know. But when something happens and then time goes on and we move past it, and then something else happens and that thing comes up again, it means that it wasn't really dealt with. It wasn't put to rest like we thought, right? It's still a scab. It did not turn to a scar. And so when you brush up against it, the scab comes off and there's all the blood again. It's re-injury. So you might need professional help to get back on track, because your word may be shot to where she's just not believing what you're saying. Like, I don't believe nothing you say. And if she doesn't believe anything you say, then stop saying and just do. But you might need help, may need professional help. Derek says, to me, love is leveling out values equally. Let me think about that. So my first reaction to that without thinking about it is that's not true, but let me think about it. Love is leveling out values equally. I'm trying to reconcile that with how God loves me. And I don't think I can. Here's what love is. Love is a selfless, often sacrificial action towards the receiver of the love. And it is for the receiver's benefit. Now, it doesn't mean that the receiver always likes it, honestly, but it's for their benefit. And it is not contingent upon how the giver of love feels. That's what love is. Love is action that is for the benefit of the receiver. Love goes one way. Love is not a boomerang. Love is not you throw it and then it comes back to you. That's called pride. Love goes one way. Meaning, here's what I mean by that. You have love, you give it. That's it. Love has no expectation of a return. So then how do I get love back? Because I need love to live too. You do. That's their responsibility to give love back to you. So you get in a relationship where there's mutual giving and receiving. My point is you don't give in order to get back. You just give. That's why when you get married, you got to know who you're marrying, because once you become married, your obligation is giving. Your benefit is receiving, but your obligation is giving. Right? And if you're in a situation where you're giving and they're not, you're going to find yourself in an emotionally abusive situation. And that's not what you want. But to speak to values are important. But a lot of times we don't even talk about values, because a lot of times we get married, but we have different values and we don't recognize it. But that's why we're fighting, right? But your values and love, because see, we don't have to value the same thing for me to love you. That is true. Yeah. So I don't know if leveling out values equally. You have to expound on that, because I may not be understanding what you're saying when you say that. But I'm missing love within myself. That is, yeah. You try to love someone else while you're empty, you are going to injure them without fail, right? You can't give them what you don't have. And watch this also. I'm kind of skipping ahead to the dad part, but if you're emotionally immature, you cannot raise emotionally mature children. You can't. You cannot give them what you don't have. I just told my kids that when I was preparing for this, I sent my kids a text last week. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Because when I was, I had my first kid when I was 21. And I'm like, I can only give you guys what I had. And some things I didn't have. You'll have to get it on your own because you need it. And I tell them what those things are. But you can't give your children what you don't have. That is 1 Corinthians 13, starting at verse 4, going all the way to the end. Someone already put it up. Is respect a two-way street? No. Just like love is not a two-way street. I found love I'm old school. Respect is not a two-way street. Meaning, now here's what I mean when I say, I don't know what you meant, but here's what I mean when I say that. Because people say you got to give respect if you want to get it. Not really. Because if that's the case, then that means you're in control of my respect. But you're not. I'm in control of all of my behavior. Even if I give you the remote, really, it's my behavior. I'm in control of my behavior. So I'm a respectful person, regardless of what you are. So if you show up and you're disrespectful, well, I guess respect is a one-way street, because I'm going to respect you even if you try to disrespect me. You think you're disrespecting me, but I don't even see it. So it didn't even register. It registered as, this dude crazy. So you thought you were disrespecting me. I thought you were being crazy. But to answer, no, it's not a two-way street per se. Respect is not earned. Neither is love. It's just given. It's a human right. But again, the challenge is we use respect in different ways. So I mean respect as a person, not respect, so like people respect me as a therapist. They don't respect me as a lawyer because I don't know law. So I'm not talking about that kind of respect, but as a person, all humans deserve respect as a person. You don't mistreat. And so that's what respect is. Not mistreating people, not talking to folk crazy, not yelling at people unless you're trying to keep them from getting hit by a car. We don't yell at humans, right? We don't grab women and choke them and push them and like we don't do that. That was random. But I hope it hit who it needed to hit. In an emotionally abusive situation, how would you change that if you realize you've been receiving that abuse for years or giving that emotional abuse for years? So that's tough, because on one hand, I am very much anti-divorce, but at the same time, I'm also very anti-abuse. And so the extreme is y'all need to separate. That's not God's design for relationships or marriage or love. And work on your stuff. If one of you is being abusive and you refuse to change, I would say leave. And I know I would get some flack from that. I know some folks, you're not supposed to tell people to leave. Well, I mean, you run your stuff how you want to. Nobody's going to convince me that's God's design. You got to show me that. You got to show me that God says put up with emotional abuse, unwilling to change, unwilling to address your stuff. Yeah, no. So let me make sure I answered your question. In an emotional abuse situation, how do you change that? Grow. And I mean, it's a simple answer. It may not be easy, but that's it. You got to grow. So my authority, I know this is not everyone's authority, right? But I'm making a point. My authority is the Bible. I believe that the Bible is God's word. But watch this. In the Bible, God never, ever addresses how people should treat you. He only addresses how you should treat people. So in the same way, if you are the abuser, you need to stop and get some help. If you're being abused, you're responsible for your safety. You got to make sure you're safe. So if we're going to work on this relationship, then you're going to be over there, I'm going to be over here. And we got to work on it from a distance because you're not safe. All right. So that's what I would say to that. But emotional abuse, in some instances, is worse than physical abuse because it lasts longer. Right. But also, too, now let me say this. A lot of times what we call emotional abuse is not emotional abuse. Just because you're frustrated every day, y'all fighting all the time, that's not necessarily emotional abuse. Not necessarily. But ultimately, you want to try to get out of that. Exactly. How do you define emotional abuse? That's a good question. I don't think I have a formal definition. I'd have to look it up, honestly. I'd have to look it up. But I'll give you some examples that I would say are most... I had two thoughts in my head. But anyway, emotional abuse. So putting someone down all the time, always criticizing and calling names, right? Gaslighting. That is the classic form of emotional abuse, where you do something and then you make the person think they crazy for calling you out on it. And they be like, damn, did I make that up? That's emotional abuse. I say kicking someone while they're down is emotional abuse, right? Abuse, abnormal use. You're abnormally using this person for your punching bag. And but I'm gonna look out. I mean, you could do it too, but a formal definition for emotional abuse. I don't have one, but when people come in my office and I start talking, I will say, hey, that's abusive. You can't do that and live. Well, I mean, not live like, well, you can die, but the relationship gonna die. You can't, you guys are not gonna thrive in that. But man, at the end of the day, this is the last thing I'm gonna say. You have to be responsible for you. You can't be responsible for your wife. But here's what I believe. If we men would get ourselves together emotionally and mentally, learn to be better communicators, learn really how to love, and I'm going to talk about that, really learn how to love, I believe it may not be instant. It may not be a short while. I don't know how long it'll take, but I believe the women and children will follow. Absolutely. I believe that a man who's been a butthole, if she is still allowing him a chance, he can turn it around. I'm not saying it's not gonna be easy, right? It's gonna be work. But what in your life is worth having that you did not have to work for? So, my goal is to help us be better men so that we can live emotionally free and really love the way that we're supposed to love and have the thriving marriage and family that we signed up to have, right? We signed up for it. And my goal is to help us be better. All right. So thank you guys for joining. And man, I tell you, I am ecstatic. Put some stuff together for next time. I haven't, because I'm not done with all of the lessons yet. Or actually, I'm not done with any of them. Like I got little bitty pieces of all of them. But y'all gonna really make me go in with all these questions or whatever, because I feed off your energy. If I know that you're really into this, man, I'm gonna give you the best that I got. Well, I shouldn't say that because I'm gonna give you the best I got anyway. I'll go above and beyond. Like today, like we did an hour and 30 minutes. I haven't done an hour and 30 minutes. This is my first time doing an hour and 30 minutes by myself. Usually Dr. Warness is on here and he's, the stuff he be sharing just be like, right? But I really appreciate you guys asking questions and asking for clarity. What are we doing next week? Let me look real quick. Let me see what we're doing next week. Why does this window keep coming up? So next week we're going to do... Okay, so next week we're going to talk about... yeah, this is going to be longer than 4 weeks. Dang it. So I'm supposed to do learning to communicate next week. But I was gonna combine that with anger and self-control. So let me ask you guys this, for those of you who aren't here. Would you rather, let me minimize this. Would you rather do, next week, would you rather do learning to communicate more effectively as a man and husband or whatever, as a man? Or would you rather do anger and self-control? All right. As such, viewers will experience. Okay, I guess YouTube about to shut me down. So if I get cut off, and I guess there's a time limit, YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. I don't know what that means. So which one would you guys rather do, real quick? Learn to communicate or anger and self-control for next week? Anger and self-control. I got one vote for that. Right, I agree, Brendan. What else? Learning how to communicate effectively. Learn how to communicate. Okay. Anger and self-control. Y'all gonna really split it in half. So here's what I may try to do. I may try to get them all in. I may try to do 20 and 20. 20 minutes, and then we'll do questions. I'll try to do that. Learn to communicate. I don't know. Learn to communicate kind of winning. But trust and believe, I'm going to do both of them I was just talking about for next week. So I'll let you know. Email me more of your suggestions about next week. And if you have more questions too, email me, clifton@cliftonbrantley.com. Okay? I got to go. Again, thank you guys so much for joining. I'm looking forward to this process and this experience. I'm growing. Hope you guys are growing. And you guys be encouraged. And I will see you next week. All right? Both if possible. I feel you, Mo. So... All right. You guys take care. And where's my? Oh, there it is. Okay. So what was I saying? Oh, you guys take care. Have a good evening, and I will talk to you next.